welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. This week has been really busy, as I say, with all sorts of stuff on the allotment. So this is the time of year really you need to be getting everything that you haven't already done. There's loads of seeds, and there's all sorts of things that need to be going in now, to be ready for next month when we're planting all out. So welcome to a busy episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. So I'm now going to plant the runner beans. Now these are the seeds that I saved last year, and saving seeds for runner beans is quite easy. You basically just let the pods run to seed on the plant, and then as soon as they've sort of ripened, as you can tell, they start to dry off. You just pick the pods off the plant, let them sort of further dry out in the greenhouse, and then basically you just extract the beans, which is exactly what these are from last year. So as you can see, I've got quite a few in there. Now I'm going to be planting somewhere in the region of around 200 of these. As you know, if you've watched my videos before, I do grow a lot of runner beans, because the one good thing about runner beans is you can freeze them, and they'll last for potentially 12 months in the freezer. So basically, with the little eye bit there facing towards you, basically in a sort of 3 or 4 inch pot, push that down around sort of 2 inches, give it a tap, and that's it. And basically repeat that sort of 200 times. So basically I'm going to be planting a load of these, and I always grow them. I always find it much more successful if you grow these in the greenhouse in a pot like this, and then plant them outside. I have planted them outside in the past, but you don't tend to get anywhere near as much success, because when they are really small, the plants, you tend to get slugs attacking them, and also birds as well. But if you grow them into an established plant, so they're kind of, I don't know, 6 inches or even 12 inches high, when you put them out, the slugs and snails and that tend to, and the birds tend to leave them alone. So I've always germinated them in the greenhouse exactly like this, and then as soon as they're ready to go out, sort of towards the end of May, I'll then put all the canes up and then plant these, and I'll be planting 2 of these per cane in the garden. Okay, so just to clear up one point, I was asked a question whilst I'm just potting up these tomatoes. If I was going to put these tomatoes, the Alicante was the actual question, if I was putting it inside or outside. Now, for me, even though it states on the Alicante seed packet that you can put them inside or outside, I don't know if you can actually see, but it says there at the bottom, grow inside or outside, and it also says the same for most tomatoes. I mean, the money maker, the money packet there, you can see there, can be grown indoors or outdoors. These varieties I always grow indoors. The varieties that I most certainly grow outside are the ones that are specified to be grown outside. I don't try to, these varieties I always try and grow inside, because that's basically the best way. It's the ones that are specified for outside varieties. They're the ones you want to grow outside. So I'm just using a lollipop stick, and what I want to do in exactly the same way as I did the brassicas last week. What I don't want to do is disturb the roots too much, but there's the plant, and I'm holding it just by its roots. And these are the pots I got from Wilco's, 12 for £1, and I'm just bobbing that in the middle there. Now this compost is a mixture of clover, which is like a peaty tart compost, and also a bit of all-purpose enriched Miracle Grow compost, and I'm just planting that at exactly the same level as it was in the previous one. So I'm just making a hole in the middle with my finger, as you can see. I've loosely put the compost in to the top of the pot, and I'm just gently, so you can't see what I'm doing, I'm just gently underneath with a lollipop stick. I'm just loosening the ground up, and I'm actually getting hold of the plant by its roots. I'm not actually touching the leaves or the stalk. You really don't want to touch the stalk at all. If you need to, you can potentially put the two leaves together like kind of that, and pull it out that way, but you're going to potentially damage the roots. So I've just made a hole in there that's the same size as the clump of compost I've got there, and then just push your fingers round the edge to sort of press down the compost. And then what I tend to do, I do it automatically almost, to be honest with you now. I just sort of tap the pot either side really gently, and what that does is it gets rid of any air bubbles and just loosens up the compost a little bit. And when you water them for the first time, that's going to get rid of most of the air bubbles anyway. So again, I'm just showing you, just pull the thing out. The bigger the clump of dirt you can get with them, the better. And you do tend to get into a bit of a kind of rhythm doing this. So I'm just pushing it round again like that. Quick tap for luck, and there you go. And what I'll do is I'll put all of these together and obviously put a label with them to say that they're money maker, which were the ones that I planted about 2 weeks ago. And I shall continue to do those and put them in the greenhouse. What I might do with the tomatoes is put them in the bed on the other side, and then take the dirt away a bit. So I've got well, I'll show you I'll show you with the camera now. So what I'm thinking of doing is, I've got glass that spans the whole of this. So I'm thinking of doing is taking the dirt away a little bit in here, so make it so it's kind of like that, and so the pots will sit obviously about sort of 4 or 5 inches below there. Then I'm going to set a piece of glass on here, so basically they'll be in a greenhouse if you like, or like in a cold flame inside a greenhouse, just in case we get a bit of frost. So I shan't put any glass over them unless we get frost, but I've got some panes of glass which will actually span this, which is what I did last year. So you might have seen that on my early videos. But what I'm going to do is put these tomatoes over here, because some plants like the brassicas and the strawberries and stuff like that, and the herbs, they're going to be quite hardy towards the frost, and also the calendulas, they're going to be quite hardy. So if it does freeze in here, they're not going to sort of die off. Whereas the tomatoes, really, you need to keep your eyes on them. So if it does, the temperature does drop, what I'll have is a secondary sort of defence against it. And what I can do is put a candle in there as well, just to keep them warm. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as I've got them all potted up, shift all this rubbish out of the way, and then I'll sort of put them all underneath in this box, if you like, and then I'll put a piece of glass over the top to give them just that little bit more protection. Okay, so you can probably hear that it's quite windy today, so I'm going to do a bit more in the greenhouse. I'll try and video outside later on, but at the moment it's you're not going to be able to hear a word that I'm saying. So basically what I'm going to do now is sow some experimental tomatoes. Now these have come in from Thompson & Morgan, and these are tomatoes that you can grow outside. So these are sort of outside tomatoes, if you like, and these are supposed to be blight resistant. So basically what I'm going to do is Thompson & Morgan have sent me these seeds free of charge, on the understanding that I grow them and obviously report back to them to let them know how I get on with them. Now there's only a few seeds in here. There's only I think there's 5 seeds, so you need to sort of hunt for the seeds. But I just sort of let you know that I'll be reporting on the progress of how these are getting on during the year. I think they've actually sent me, yeah, there is actually 5 seeds, so I've had to sort of tear the packet open to get them all in. Now I'm going to be just growing them. I'm going to be germinating them in the house. So this is a 4-cell little pocket that you've seen before that I got from Aldi. These came from, sorry. And basically it says to sow them onto 6mm of compost. So that's exactly what I've just done. Then I'll be growing these outside. I'm going to put them in a sheltered area, because the one thing with tomato plants when you grow them outside is they can get blown over, particularly if you're in an allotment as exposed as us. But basically I'll be showing you these through the year. I'm just going to label these up, and I shall put them in the house to germinate, because they need it recommends to, you know, a sort of 21 degrees centigrade germination temperature, so these are most certainly in the house for that. So I'll let you get on. I'll let you know how I get on with these later in the season. Okay, so on with the parsnip experiment for this year. So as I've said, I'm going to grow them in a number of different ways to see which is the most successful. And with this second lot, what I'm going to do is actually chit them. Now I'm growing 4 varieties, so I've got these Wilco's Parsnip F1 hybrids, which are £1.60 packet. So all I've got in here is I've got a little tray, and these are the trays that you get sort of mushrooms in and stuff like that from the supermarket. And all I'm going to do is just gently sprinkle over just a few seeds. Try and get them as spread out as I possibly can do. Like that, as you can see. And I'm going to do that for exactly the same for the others. Now I'll be growing all 4 different varieties. So these are the Sutton white gem seeds. These are the ones that I grew last year. Exactly the same way. I'm just going to be sprinkling them onto the. All I've got here is a bit of tissue paper in the bottom of the tray, and I've poured some tap water in there, so I've got some seeds there. Now what I might have to do is put a little teeny bit more water on top of these afterwards. Basically what you want to do is make sure that the seeds are touching the water, but they're not actually submerged in the water. This next one's Albion F1 hybrid. You can see that, and these are recommended by the Royal Horticultural Society. I've lost the top off there, so I can't. Oh, they're Thompson and Morgan seeds. These are the ones that I put in the parsnip propagator, if you remember. So in exactly the same way, I put some seeds in there. And the last variety that I'm growing is quite an old variety. This variety's got to be at least sort of, well, to my knowledge, it's 40 odd years old, and this is Arrow. This is by the Urban Garden Collection. And again, I'm just putting these on top of a little bit of tissue paper soaked in water, and I'll be leaving these in the greenhouse on the side here. The one thing that you need to make sure of is obviously that they don't dry out, so you need to make sure there's plenty of water. I've got quite a few there. As I say, I don't really want to touch them with my fingers if I can help it. So they're the ones in there. I've got a bit of a cluster at the top. What I might do is just try and flick a few of those over. So I'm basically going to leave those in these trays, and I've got just a pop bottle full of water. I'm just putting a little bit more water on top. Obviously the seeds are going to go all over the place now, and I'm just making sure that they're not going to dry out. So the greenhouse may be slightly too warm for this, to be honest with you, but I'm going to leave them in there. I've made a mental note of which one's which, but I'll be just putting some labels in there so I can tell which one's which, and I'm going to plant them, these ones, in sort of succession up the row, if you like. So I'm going to have one part which is the Albion, one part which is the white gem, the Arrow, etc., going up the rows. So that's chitting, and I'll show you these in the next set of videos when the little sort of roots and stems have started to come out. Okay, so this is where the parsnips are going, and this ground has been dug over really well, down to at least a foot or so. I've raked it over already, but I'm going to give it one more last rake over, and then I'm going to set a line up it and basically measure the where the row needs to be, and then I'll be making a small drill, but I'll show that in the video. Okay, so this is the traditional way of how I do it. Basically what I've done is I've put a line up, and that line will remain there until the parsnips are through, so I can, if there's any weeds coming, I can tell exactly where they've been. So what I'm going to do now with the potato hoe, what I'm going to do is basically make a drill up in that line to enable me to put the seeds in. The drill's going to be around an inch or so deep. Okay, so now I'm going to just tap the seeds into the drill, and I'm basically going to be as much as I possibly can do, trying to get them around 3 or so inches apart. You need to be patient when you're doing this. You can potentially get a few seeds coming out of the packet all in one go. You just have to kind of keep tapping the seed with near the pointed part of the packet, and then the seed should come out. Any lumps that you get in the drill, just take them out. Okay, so as soon as you've got the seeds in, what I do is get clumps of soil like that, and I just break it up in my hand so you've got a really fine tilt over to make sure that you absolutely bury the seeds. So basically all the bits that your rotavator didn't pick up, or when you were digging, if you just break them up into your hand like that and put it over. What you can do is, rather than doing this, is get some potting compost and put that over the top, you know, just to sprinkle over the top, because basically what you want to do is just cover the seeds. You don't want to cover the seeds by much, you only want to cover them by about ½ centimetre or so. That's what I always recommend, just to make sure that they're actually covered. And then just basically go up the row like that, so you've got any lumps of soil that you have like this, just basically break it up in your hands over the row. And what I do is, when I'm raking the ground, is any lumps like this, I always push them over to one side, because I know I'm going to be doing this. So when you're raking over, if you've got some lumps, don't worry about that, just rake the lumps over to one side, and then you can use them to break down to over the row like this to bury your seeds. So there you go, so that's the first row of parsnips in. And what I've done is I've put those boxes on, as you've just seen, and I've just wrapped some plastic around and just weighed it down with the bricks on this side, and then on this side I've just sort of tucked it underneath tucked it under the tunnel. But as you can see, if I get down here, it's not actually touching the actual row itself, which is important. Now, if you haven't got any of these boxes, what you can do is put the plastic directly on the ground, but you need to watch it, because if the parsnip seedlings come through and you've still got this plastic on, it can potentially scorch the leaves. So as soon as you see them coming through, then remove the plastic. But I'll be doing exactly the same thing as this on the next row, but those will be the ones that have been chitted. So the next row, which will be around here, will be exactly the same, but they'll be the ones I've just shown you in the greenhouse. And then on the end here, what I'm going to be doing is planting, making a hole the size of a parsnip, filling that with compost, and then just putting a selection of seeds on the top of that, and using a top off a pot bottle as a cloche. So I'll be showing you that in episodes coming up. Okay, so as you can probably hear, the wind is absolutely whistling through the allotment today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a tour of the allotment. I can only apologise if you probably hear the wind now. I can only apologise if the wind gets up and you can't hear me, but I'll start in the greenhouse, at least you'll be able to hear me in here. So here the the standard calabrese, the green broccoli, and they're doing reasonably well. So they're probably about 4 or 5 inches tall now. These are all of the tomatoes. These are the moneymaker tomatoes here. I've had about 5 or 6 of the Alicante. Is it Alicante? Ones germinate. I'll put the name at the bottom of the screen. Sorry. So they've germinated, but I've not actually potted them up and put them in the greenhouse yet. So all of these that you see here, these are all moneymaker. Then these are all of the basically the gourds. So we've got the squash here and here. So they're the butternut squash, and then we've got courgettes. These 9 here. Then we've got the Winterfest gourds. I've put 6 of those in. Then we've got 3 giant pumpkins. Sorry, 6 giant pumpkins, and then 6 normal sized pumpkins called small sugar. Then we've got over here we've got the sweet peas, and you can see these are the ones we put in last week. So they're all coming up. There are the RAF ones, which are the red, white, and blue. And then these are the ones that I saved last year. As you can see, the germination is not quite as good, but you know, I've got a couple coming up here. But there's time yet. They've only been in a week. Just moving over here, these are the calendula, the sort of the rusty coloured ones. There's also another box there at the back. The alpine strawberries are flowering, so fingers crossed I might get some little strawberries soon. Those are the kale. The Swedes have come through. I actually put those in last week, but you probably saw the video this week, so I didn't quite manage to get it in. So we've got a couple of so we've got one cell that's, sorry, a couple of cells that nothing's come through, and ironically this one has got 3. So what I might try and do is sort of I don't know, I'll have enough anyway, but what I'll probably do is try to pot those up slightly. I might put them in bigger pots, but as you'll probably see in a minute, I'm running out of room in the greenhouse, so I need to be careful how many things I'm potting up at the minute. Some things are going to have to start going outside now, to be honest with you, but with this weather it's been really windy today, as you can probably see on the allotment here. It's really whistling through. I wouldn't be surprised if we're having sort of 80-mile-an-hour winds, which kind of keep coming and going. The old weather vanes have been spinning around like balmy today, and that's been since about 7 o'clock this morning. And all of the fruit trees here and here and that one there, they'd all fallen over, so I've had to tie them up against the sort of the fence, the sort of the cage bit. So I'll show you that when I go outside in a minute, but you may not hear me. These are the salad leaf. As you can see, they're coming on quite nicely, so really they need to go outside very shortly. So I'll be sort of planting them up, you know, sort of putting them outside. These 2 cells here for some reason haven't done very well. That one there looks like it's actually damped off, but the weather's been so interchangeable. I mean, it's 21 degrees in the greenhouse at the moment. Yesterday it was 32 degrees in the greenhouse, and that was with the window and the door open. So that's that. These are all of the sweet corns that got put in. You probably saw the video. So I actually ended up with 6 full, sorry, 5 full trays, and I've also got a half tray here. So I only actually used one of the 2 packets of seeds that I had, and I'll save the other one for next year. These are the other sweet peas. As you can see, the odd one is coming up. That's the same variety as these here that I saved last year. The cherry tomatoes haven't come up. This one's gone a little bit dry, but it has been watered. Probably watering that later on. It's a little bit warm to water at the moment. As you can see there, the herbs are doing quite well. We've got the marjoram, the thyme, the basil, etc. So they're doing alright. The leeks are up. I don't know if you can see the leeks there. They're probably about going on for 1 inch high now. Big pot of compost ready for the rest. These are all of the runner beans that I've put in so far. So there's actually 66 plants there. I need to do probably about another sort of like that 2 times again, if you like. This is the lettuce that I showed you, the nice lettuce that have got the sort of the red on the inside. As you can see, the leaves are quite red on the so they'll form into the, it's kind of like iceberg, but it's red on the inside. So they're doing all right. Over here, obviously, you know, you saw the pumpkins going in the previous video, and there's some more tomatoes there, which are the money maker. I've not pricked them out yet, but to be honest with you, I've got more than enough here already. Really, I don't really need any more, so I may not prick those ones out because I'm struggling for room in the greenhouse, as you can see. I've moved a couple of the trays from here over to here so I can put the beans in. So that's the greenhouse. I'm now going to brave it outside, so if you can't hear me very well, I do apologise, but I'll try and explain as best I can as I go around. So outside we've got the comfrey here. This one here, I've just put a bit of stuff on top of it, but that doesn't seem to be, I think that's possibly died. These two seem to be okay, but this one in the middle doesn't seem to be. The hollyhocks are on the way now. Dug up a few parsnips, so there are some of the last few parsnips which are rooting up at the moment. I've brought the hydrangeas outside just to make a bit of room on the inside the greenhouse, but I may well put them back inside later, depending on what the weather. But we are forecast to have really hot weather this week, so you know, I don't want them kind of getting too hot in the greenhouse. The dahlias, as you can see, this one here is doing really well. That's sort of coming up shoots all over the place. This one here has just started, as you can see here. There's a shoot coming through there, so that one is doing okay. This one here, there's a little teeny shoot down there, I don't know if you can see that. So that one's just started to come out in the last couple of days. This one, so far, absolutely nothing. So I don't know what's going on with this one, but fingers crossed I'll get something out of there. If not, I'll be taking a few cuttings, as I explained, off these anyway. So I'll be able to duplicate it. But these actually end up in my front garden. So what I'll be doing is, as Mark Davidson suggested, I'll be taking a few cuttings off those as and when they're sort of big enough to go. Not really done a lot of cleaning up here. I've moved these sort of slabs up out of where I was digging last week. I've had quite a few chives in the last couple of weeks. As you can see, the chives are doing really well, so we've actually cropped quite a few of those. The comfrey that we put here in these 3 pipes, that's doing really well. No signs from the asparagus yet, but there's time yet. But I have noticed David's plot up the top there, where the seed came from these. There's a couple coming through. Just very quickly whilst we're here, the grapevine has started to shoot all over, right the way up to here, as you can see. So that'll be my runner, I think, for this year, off that one. This one here. I need to sort of trim these back, so I think what I'm going to do is let them grow out and then sort of trim them back. So I think that's what you do. I need to have a quick read up in my book on grapevines to see what to do with those, but the grapevines are coming on alright. Raspberries, as you can see, are really starting to come through now. That's a reasonably big difference this week. The fruit trees, what I've done is I've just put a bit of pipe lagging round just to protect them so the string doesn't cut into them, or this metal bar, and I've tied them up against the railings, and also the Justerberry bushes. I've also tied those in. Same with that one, or same with those as well. Managed to get in 8 rows of potatoes so far, so another 5 rows to go. So here are the first 5. I've put these little tubs on the top like I did in the greenhouse, just in case somebody falls on the pole. I'm just about to crop some of the spinach. We're eating quite a lot of that at the moment, so whilst that's available, but as soon as that's finished, which will be probably in about a month or so's time, possibly less than that, I'll be digging this over and putting another row of potatoes in there. Here's another 3 row of potatoes here. Sorry about the wind. And there's going to be another row there. You saw me putting that row in the previous video. I'll be putting another row in here, but because of the weather, the way that it's been, I've not managed to get up and do anything. Purple sprouting broccoli is still doing well. I'm going to crop some of this again, but I must admit the bloody pigeons have been up here, as you can see. This is classical pigeon damage, and this is basically because I moved the tunnel over there so I could dig all of this over. and since I've done that, the pigeons have gone balmy and eaten all the leaves. I don't care about the leaves. Obviously, I'm only after the the flower stalks. But, so the pigeons have had a go at them. I was going to put a net over today, but because of this wind, I haven't bothered, to be honest with you. I've had to put loads of bricks and weights down on the tunnels because of the wind. As you can see, it's been kind of blowing over here where the onions are. Birds have picked out a few of the onions, not too many. I've had a couple that I've had to bob back in, but they're the first 5 rows of onions that I showed you. What I've been doing here is, obviously this has all been dug out since the last tour video, so all of that was, if you remember, it was rough last week, so that's all been dug down with a spade, down to about a foot, if slightly more than a foot, and it's been rotivated 3 times to try and break it up. But because the soil's been quite wet, it's not broken up quite as much as I would have liked. But because there's potatoes going in there, or something else, I think actually the potatoes are going to end up about here. So basically where these brassicas are at the moment, that's where the potatoes are going to end. So basically where my foot is here. So if you imagine that line there, where the brassicas end. So I'm not quite sure what to put in here, so I'll have to have a look at the plan to see where I intended to put, but there'll be something going there, I can assure you. Obviously the onions will come to about kind of here anyway, so there's only going to be probably about 4 foot there, so I'll get a few rows or something in. So that's the onions. They're not showing yet, obviously. They'll be showing in a couple of weeks' time or so. These are the tunnels, there's nothing in them as of yet. I need to do a bit of weed in there. So this here I've dug over completely this week, and rotivated it twice, raked it all down, and this is where the parsnips are going, which I was going to show you today, but unfortunately because of the weather I'm not going to start sowing parsnips when the wind's like this. Okay, so moving on to the rhubarb, and I can only apologise about the wind. It's really whistling through at the minute. You can see the weather vanes over there spinning around. This is the rhubarb. Really, by now I was going to cover it, but I don't put any of the bins on top of it at the minute, because I think the wind's going to take it if I put a bin on. So I'm going to, hopefully the wind will calm down for tomorrow, and I'll put a bin on top of. I'm going to put a top on that one there, and this one here this year. Last year was this one and the far one. So as I say, I'll rotate them around every year. See, this is what I have to put up with all day long. Hey, demanding little bugger, aren't you? So I hope this episode of Jim's Allotment Garden has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions. Please subscribe. Thank you for your support, and thank you to all the new subscribers that have subscribed in the last couple of months. I do appreciate your support. And from me and Dorothy and Billy, here he is. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye now.